I do have from when I was a child growing up, a holographic Kazakhstan card. Is that Kangaskhan?
Kazakhstan.
Jesus Christ.
What's good, man? It's your boy Juicy J, man. Shout out to Virtual Homework Podcast.
What's up, world? That's the intro.
Why not the whole world?
The whole world. This is an international podcast. I could probably look into our stats and find at least one person from out of the U.S.
Dude, shout-outs to Romania.
Shout-outs to Romania. If you are in fucking, what's the capital of Romania? I should know this. Bucharest? Is it Bucharest? I think so.
Is it Bucharest?
I got it. You hear the typing, so I wasn't doing it before. It's the capital and largest city of Romania. There we go. Geography knowledge down. This is the geography podcast.
I was going to say Budapest, but that's Hungary.
Yeah, close enough. It doesn't matter for the purposes of this video game podcast. What's up, Romania? What's up, world? We're coming at you from, I guess, our own houses here, recording the Virtual Homework Podcast. I've said the name a million times. Are you asking me to dox myself right now?
Yeah, dude. We're on the fucking moon.
Yeah, this podcast is actually being filmed at a Canadian temple.
Sounds like a
Cambodia.
Foreign porno.
Some country that begins with the letter C. We're at a temple of Buddhist origin, filming a podcast in the basement.
Yeah, dude.
It's pretty cool.
It's all right.
How was your week this week?
All crypto shit is basically what I spent basically all my time doing crypto shit and playing Hades.
Let's get into that. So, spoilers, the game this week, the Fireman, was pretty short.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that was by design, but at the same time, because we played a relatively short game this week, we actually basically were able to have a double week with Hades, because I feel like both of us had unfinished business with Hades. So before we get into the game this week, let's actually get into Hades a little bit. Did you play Hades the last week?
I probably played like 22 hours or like 23 hours of Hades this week.
That's very specific.
I'm just fucking estimating, but I did beat it twice. I played it. After you beat it, you unlock like an end game that makes it more difficult. You get like more rewards and stuff. But fuck, man, that game is like, I tried to think of negative things to say about that game. I have like zero bad things to ever say about that game. Play Hades. That game is so fucking good.
Yeah, Hades is definitely. I made a tweet about this, but I think it's probably the best game I played in the last 5 years. I can't think of anything that like really captivated me from start to finish. And like, there's a lot of good games out there, and I'm trying to think of something that like I had a better experience with. And there's things that come close, but I don't think there's anything that quite beats.
Like,
Hades
I really like
me.
999, but like this is just such a better experience as far as like pure like fun, like me wanting to go to like the next step over and over and over. Something I realized over time is that like after you beat the game, there's like more story, and you unlock more story like the more you beat the game and like do it on harder difficulties. And like it's just kind of cool how you can progress through the story slowly like that. It's like,
yeah, I mentioned this last week, but it's really a completionist dream. It's one of those games where it took us both probably about 25 hours to beat it the first time. Yeah. Spoiler alert, I also beat it for the first time, but like after that, if you really want to like beat this game fully, you're probably gonna have to sink like 100 hours in, especially given that the end game and what you could do and to make the game harder, it gets near impossible. I talked to you a little bit about this and you alluded to it, but I, like you, watch some of the people streaming this game right now.
It's nasty hard.
There are ways that basically make the end game more difficult, and you see a lot of like these top streamers in the Hades directory doing these like challenge runs of like the absolute hardest difficulty. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like the first dungeon is like already like stupidly fucked up in terms of like difficulty. So that was definitely entertaining to watch. I will say that is not for me. In fact, a lot of this end game in general wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I was at this point where I was kind of getting frustrated towards the end trying to beat this game, and like when I finally did it, I had like a huge sense of accomplishments. You mentioned like when you beat it, you were like smiling ear to ear.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just with excitement. And I was basically the same way, but like
it was just such an ephemeral experience.
Yeah, I played the game after that, but like it just didn't really feel the same to me, and I feel like I got my enjoyment out of the game, and just because there are so many things in the world, like I kind of felt like, oh, it's time to move on, and I've been playing other stuff since. So I personally, once I beat it, I didn't play that much more Hades, but I still am not going to say, like, this game has everything needed to be like really game of the year. I guess Last of Us must have been a really fucking good game.
Yeah. As far as like
beat
an
out
indie
Hades.
game, because didn't only like a couple people work on this game? Like this is such a small design team, isn't it?
Supergiant Games, I don't know how many. I think it's about a team of 20. I could be wrong, but
It-
every single game they've made has been well received. Bastion is the one I know, but I know they made 3 games total.
But yeah, we have nothing but good things to say about Hades. You should definitely play it, even if this isn't a genre that you normally play. Because I know you normally don't play like dungeon crawler type games. I feel like this was kind of like out of left field for something you'd enjoy. So
I mean, I feel like this is honestly just out of left field. Like it's a roguelike, but there's no other roguelike like it. I think.
well, it's called a roguelite because it's not as in depth, but I think that plays to its strength because what it does so unbelievably well that doesn't need more like complexity. You know.
I think the really foreign aspect to me is the beat 'em up. I generally don't like beat 'em up games. Like, I'm trying to think of like another beat 'em up game I like, and like yeah, of course, there's like the Simpsons arcade game and the X-Men arcade game, but like
yeah, they're like Castle Crashers, that kind of shit. But
yeah,
this has a lot more finesse to it.
Yeah, exactly. Did you end up like how did you end up playing this game? Because I know that I quote unquote convinced you, bought the game for you, on Switch. Did you are you a mobile Hades gamer or were you a PC?
I do both
gamer?
actually. So it's like if I'm like I'll play it on my computer and then it's like I'm gonna go lay in bed for 3 hours and play Hades. I beat it once on the PC and then beat it once on my Switch.
So the fact that you didn't complain about this makes me assume that it works flawlessly. But like I feel like an underappreciated feature. This game has cross save functionality. So like
dude,
if you're playing on the PC.
There's literally
go to Switch.
no issues. Literally no issues. It's instant. There's no waiting. There's no like you could literally play on your Switch for 5 minutes, but like, oh wait, I'm gonna switch to PC. Just log out, log back into the PC. It's instantly saved. It's streamlined so well.
I feel like that's something that's easy to take for granted, but like it's still like even though the technology is there, you don't see it in that many games. I feel like that's more of a Xbox environment sort of feel.
Well, not even like Xbox games, like and stuff like that. Like any first-person shooter, like Fortnite, nothing has cross compatibility anymore. I feel so like to see that in like this style of game, like just feels so good. Like this, they nailed this game. Like man. I hope the people who created this, they're rich and well off because they literally made me like have such a good time. Like I don't very much so often say this where I'm like I said at the end of a game, it's even if it's like a really good game, are you really smiling ear to ear? Like no, like when we beat that final boss, like I felt so accomplished. I felt like a fucking badass. Like holy shit! Like all that work, all that effort. Like and then I get to see like the ending. Like oh my god. Well, not
I felt
ending,
like a badass. 100%. It's a satisfying ending. We'll definitely say that much.
Yeah.
Do you think that you're gonna continue to play this game from time to time?
I'm probably burned out for it right now. I really want to get like some of the harder difficulties because I do enjoy like the difficulty ramp up as you get more power ups and stuff like that. Like my build I play with is basically like brain dead. I would say like I have like a 90% chance of just beating the whole thing. Like it's pretty easy without like any upgrades or anything like that. So
yeah, I guess that's kind of how it was towards the end when I actually beat it. Like it's one of those things where like the RNG you're able to get like certain like pretty much like OP until like the final boss configurations of your build if you know what you're doing. So by the time I got to the end boss, like I had not died at all. There's a thing called Death Defiance, so like I had like 4 of those stocked up and I was just like basically spamming my way through. I guess that's a one negative thing I could say is like if you get overpowered, it gets a little brain dead, but they very easily accommodate.
It feels
for
good
that.
though, like to be overpowered.
It does
like
feel
it's like holy shit.
It's like God mode basically. But yeah, there's so much more here to this game, and in fact, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm not playing it because I know I could get so lost trying to do all the other weapons and upgrade them, etc.
What is your favorite god to get powers from? Do you think?
I do like. I don't know. I feel like
I
it
like
has
Poseidon.
To be...
Poseidon's my favorite for sure.
Poseidon's actually towards the bottom for me. I feel like
that knockback on your dash is actually broken.
Yeah, you mentioned that last time, but I feel like every single time. So the way that I would play this game, because I wanted to maximize my progress and maximize the way that I like got money and stuff, is that I would almost always for the first or second room use the charm that allowed you to go to chaos for free and increases like odds of giving you something good. And I would always like pick the power up that like increase the amount of gems and purple things that you
yeah.
got. Poseidon will often offer a chance to just give you a bunch of money, and I was like, I have to take this because I have like 8 multipliers on this.
So
I think that my favorite, I liked Ares, the god of war, but I also liked Ranger Woman. I forget
Artemis.
her name.
Artemis is so I would always start with Zeus to get the attack that makes it so it when you hit one enemy, it flies off and hits another. So I was able to clear really easy on the first one. And then I would go into Poseidon to get the dash that would knock back, but then you can also augment it so when you knock them back, they get ruptured, so they take extra damage. When they hit walls, they take 200% damage. It makes bosses take 20% damage, like all stacked. And then I would get Artemis to make it all crit, so it was just like
it makes the number go up. I mean, we're both, I don't know about you, but I'm an ex-MapleStory player, so like I feel like one of the most satisfying things when you're playing a game like MapleStory, where like everything does high damage, is just to see like a billion numbers go off the screen at once.
Absolutely.
Well, you don't see
Feels
numbers fly on the screen as much as in the game like MapleStory. It's just you see a bunch of attacks go boom, and it's satisfying
like, and
to watch.
everything fucking melts. So
I do want to call you out a little bit.
what's up?
A tiny bit, because you told me, it was like, you see the speedrun of this game, dude? I'm like, no, I want to beat the game first. So I looked into it. In fact, a lot of the speedrunning, it's not what I expected. I thought that new game plus, or not new game plus, like new game to completion would be the big speedrun, but no, it's a lot of like these massive challenge runs that are at the top of the board.
Yeah.
But you mentioned, oh, it's sub 5 minutes, dude. No, it's 5:57.
It's whatever. It's still like it's
Also,
pretty low.
when you did it, I totally was thinking this was RTA. No, it's like 13 minutes RTA, but like the game has like cutscenes and stuff, so it actually is 5 minutes 57 seconds.
I just looked at what they have like on the physical leaderboard and stuff like that.
I
There's
will
a
say it's
5
crazy.
there. Oh, they're nuts.
No, well, it's crazy for one. The actual runs themselves are crazy, but like the speedrunning community is big, and I realized that, but I didn't recognize like a single name. Like maybe it's due to the fact that I'm a washed up ex speedrunner at this point. But yeah, I was surprised I didn't recognize a single person. Like this is a community that like I could really get deep into. I will say though, I don't think speedrunning this game, I don't think challenge runs are for me. I feel like part of the reason I love this game was I was basically able to just blitzkrieg at a certain point and just cause havoc, and like it's really strategic how they play this game. It's kind of like Ikaruga when you think about it at the top level, where it's like you really gotta understand every single minute detail of how to play this game, and that's just not for me.
Personally, I don't have the eyes for it, because it's like I straight up I'll run into a trap, I'll have a lone fireball hit me and stuff like that, and on those higher challenge runs, it's going to happen, because like I said, I just don't have the eyes like I used to. That's why I can't play games like Ikaruga or things like that.
Yeah, like in fact, like one of the bigger power-ups in this game is the there's like something that halves your health, but you're able to like increase your health whenever you attack.
Yeah.
And I love that one because I'm just able to spam the attack, and it doesn't matter if I just get hit by a trap accidentally, because it'll just increase my health.
How many times did you accidentally die on bosses because you like ran into a trap trying to like dodge something? More
than once. I don't know. The thing is, this game, you go through it so many times, you lose count of every single thing you die on.
So, speaking of things of dying on,
No, one last thing, because before I forget, are we gonna see some speedruns of Hades on the twitch.tv/Finctus?
I could probably do a run or two. Yeah, I could show you like my build, and I can show you some cool stuff maybe after this.
Maybe.
If you're down.
Probably not tonight, because in an hour it may or may not be a holiday for couples, and I have a girlfriend, so.
Oh.
Well, it's more that like I might get yelled at if it's like you really didn't come to bed for Valentine's Day because it is.
It's midnight.
It's like, sorry, I was watching my bro play Hades. Whatever. Okay, speaking of anything else, your transition was way better, but I had to bring it back. What game did we play this week?
The transition with mine was equally as fucking bad.
Okay, but it got a little awkward on my end, but I'm also making it more awkward by saying it got awkward. What did we play this week? Come on, let's get there.
Dude, speaking of loving your significant other, we played the Firemen.
Speaking of sexy, brawny, this we're talking about me here. Sexy, brawny, chiseled abs.
Dude, we played the
sweating.
Fireman.
Yeah,
which
firemen. Which I have a sexy fireman outfit. I cosplay as a fireman on weekends.
What?
People are like, help, this building's on fire. And I'm just like standing in front of them with my abs, and they're like, you need to go into the building and save these people. And I'm just like, look at my abs.
You're like, shout out
sexy
to my
fireman.
Abs. Wait, what is this conversation? Like, do you really do this?
Yeah, many have died on my watch. So I picked this week.
Yes.
He picked Hades, and I'm like, you know what? No video game.
We've had a spicy past couple weeks. You know, we played.
Actually,
we played
from
Ignition
the depths of hell to actually. Oh my god, yeah.
Played Ignition Factor, then Hades, then this, right?
Yes, and so I will say the Firemen and Ignition Factor were kind of a package deal. When I picked the Ignition Factor, I knew, due to the fact that there are two Fireman-based video games for the Super Nintendo, that we cannot play one without the other.
Oh, absolutely not.
The week that we played the Ignition Factor, I knew that the next time I was able to pick a game, we'd play the Fireman. It just worked out this way that we're playing a really, really hell month.
Can I say, I think this game fucking rules.
This is a good game. I was just thinking, like, holy
so
shit.
Sick.
I was thinking, like, holy shit, why is the Ignition Factor so shitty? Why is this game could have been good? Here we have the Fireman, which never came out in the US.
No.
And this is, like, how you make... first of all, not just like a good fireman game in general.
It's like an action, like it has like a plot. Like it's like I don't want to say it's an RPG, but it's like
this is like the Super Nintendo at its best, honestly.
Oh, like this literally got thrown in probably my top 5 favorite SNES games just from the 2 hours I played of this game. Because
and
this
2
game
hours is honestly all you need. Because we mentioned right before,
super short.
Yeah, I would. And so the speed run of this game is like 10 minutes, but like that doesn't say much because a lot of games when they have a 10-minute speed run, it doesn't necessarily. But like, I feel like that 10 minutes it doesn't require glitches, because if you know how to beat this game, like it really, it's only 6 levels. Then again, the Ignition Factor was only like 10 levels.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of relatively short games.
This is still a lot faster. But let's go into like what the game actually is. This is a game produced by Human Entertainment in 1995,
which is a really funny name for a studio, right?
I've literally never heard of them. This was probably because, like you said, was a PAL release and Japanese only release, so it's like obviously it's from companies that we wouldn't have heard of in the United States.
So I actually looked up Human Corp or Human Corporation, I think is what the name is.
Human Entertainment. I think it's Human Entertainment.
Well, okay, whatever. I'm not gonna argue. It could be Human Entertainment. It could be Human Corporation. But at the end of the day, it's Human. They've made games that like are on my radar, but I've never played. They're like those random ass games that you've like heard of for systems.
Yeah.
But like they were defunct in 2000. But the thing that I really had to note is that like one of the like the companies they became, because they splintered into a bunch of different groups. One of them is called Nude Maker.
What?
And I'm like, Nude Maker? Or do they make porn games? No, they make legitimate titles, and they just chose the name Nude Maker because they are insane.
I mean, that's marketing right there. It's like, you know, if I made a game company called like, Penis Destroyer or something like that.
Yeah, they made the game Steel Battalion for the Xbox.
Oh God, I could write a paper on that game. That's the game that had like the $1,000 controller that came with it. That was like the full like mech setup.
Oh no, they made Fire Pro Wrestling and some sports games, but they made some like random games that I've heard of.
But yeah, this game was
they made Clock Tower. That's the game I was thinking.
Wait, they
of.
made Clock Tower?
Yeah, they made Clock Tower.
Oh, that game's fucking sick.
Yeah, I like Clock Tower. But yeah, we've gone so off the rails. It's made by Human Corp. It's basically an action game with fire fighting elements. Actually, the gameplay is pretty similar to the Ignition Factor, except they took all the bad things of the Ignition Factor and like
made them look good.
Well, they just they weren't there. The main difference between this game and the Ignition Factor is, while the Ignition Factor is like different levels with different scenarios, this entirely takes place in a single building fire, and the plot builds from there. They're basically trying to get out this fire that's started in a chemical factory due to some like unknown chemical being extremely flammable.
So what happened was it's Microtech Chemicals, and it was Christmas Eve, the night of their Christmas party, and a fire breaks loose, like you said, due to chemicals, and it's up to Pete and Danny, the fucking best bros, who they make a point in the opening credits to say. They have 2 commendations of fucking bravery, bust into the scene with their team to, solve the issues with the fireman.
Yeah, so this game, like, when you think of a firefighting video game, you think of, I don't know, I feel like you would think of something more like the Ignition Factor, where it's technical. Yeah. Oh, where are we going to place the fire truck? What different type of...
I want to say this game is like a beat 'em up, though, but like how they do it is with, like, instead of enemies, you have like fire. Like, and the fires are all like different enemies with like different patterns, different shooting things. Like,
if we're talking like enemies are fire, fire, each level has a boss fight, and the boss is fire.
Yeah.
It's like, it actually made me, like, I was, like, grinning, again, ear to ear, when I got to the first boss. It's like, oh, they're really just making me fight a giant-ass fire.
Dope.
Yeah.
Like,
and the boss music is so good. You're fighting this fire, you're like, oh, shit, and make you feel like such a badass as it's, like, flying across the screen, and you're like... You're using your infinite hose, because we forgot an element of this video game. This game takes place in the future, but, like, they're really cynical. They're like, the year is 2010. Nothing has changed. And it's like, oh, shit. Like,
for the last 20 years, technology has not changed.
Yeah, except for the fact that this is literally on a backdrop of the Twin Towers. Why does every single game that talks about the future on a backdrop?
When Japan thinks of the United States, that's like what they remember.
And why do I have to bring this up every single time it happens? I could just like go across my day, but instead I write this in my notes. Like,
it's like 9/11, like, you know.
They didn't guess it.
With the highlighter, you have to like underline it like 5-6 times. Make sure you mention this.
Human Corp. Why didn't you guess it? Why didn't you alert the world?
The gameplay basically consists of you playing as Pete, you know, either your mustached hero, as he goes through the building to try to get to his goal. The first goal of which is finding the chemical MDL in the basement, because it's a time bomb waiting to happen. So you and your partner Danny battle through the building, through fires, through waves of flames, which, like I said, they all have different patterns. They have all different sprites. What's cool is because they're different sprites, you can kind of get an idea of what kind of attacks they're going to be doing, so you can get ready for it. You mentioned earlier that the different nozzles you have, whether it's like you're shooting fire at the ground or across, based on the enemy or which like attack they're using, you can kind of switch the attack style you're using, whether it's you have to duck under fire or whatever. Like, it's, man, this game is fucking dope.
This game is dope. First of all, I feel like we can't talk about this game being dope without talking about Danny. This is a partner system, and one of the things I will say is a little bit sad is that this is a fully single player game. When you see two people firefighting, you like kind of expect to be able to play co-op.
Oh, that would be
but
sick.
Instead, you have you and Danny, who is a computer who is invincible. He literally is impervious to fire, and he'll just like, if you're like in the area, he'll help you like taking out some of these fires. So let's just do a shout out to Danny.
Danny's a boy.
Danny is our boy, and he makes this game way more enjoyable, even if all he does is like he just puts out surrounding fires in your area.
It's nice because I can just deal with all like the projectiles flying at me, because there are points in this game that are straight up like a bullet hell, and he's like getting rid of like the fires ahead of you so you can progress through the stages and stuff like that. Because towards the end, on like the 5th and 6th levels, like, holy shit, do the things coming at you become like
so you beat this game?
Yeah.
Okay, I also beat this game. I think so. This game, we said, is short. I think that a normal casual playthrough would probably take you like 45 minutes to get through all 6 levels, but you're probably going to beat this on like your 4th or 5th try through the game.
Yeah. It took me 3 tries. The first time I played through it, I got to the 3rd level boss, that one that like...
Exact same thing with me, and then I think I got to the 5th level, and then I think I got to
that's basically what happened.
3 tries.
I realized I can just save up all my specials on that guy and just blow them on him to get past it, because that enemy, that's literally the hardest boss in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, the last boss wasn't too bad.
You could just stand up top and just fucking spam your special on him, and he dies. So
yeah, so it's really impossible to talk about this game, and I feel like it's even impossible to like talk about why this game is so good without comparing it to the Ignition Factor. And honestly, I feel bad for the Ignition Factor, because if you remember our previous talk regarding that game, like,
well, you liked that game.
No, I wouldn't say I liked it. I was sympathetic towards it. Like, I was like, this game isn't that bad. But after playing this game, the Ignition Factor is one of the worst games I've ever played for the Super Nintendo. Holy shit, did that game miss the mark. I feel bad. And, well, actually, I don't, because the Ignition Factor came to the U.S. and had a U.S. audience while this game didn't. So I feel bad for the Firemen for not coming to the U.S. I don't know why. Probably just some random localization
This would have been a
but
sick-ass fucking arcade game, even.
Yeah, but I just genuinely feel bad for, like, the Ignition Factor after I played this game, because there is absolutely, like, the game went from having redeemable qualities to, like, fuck the Ignition Factor. I will never play the Ignition Factor again. I will never recommend the Ignition Factor again.
I mean, to be honest, at the end of the day, I'm probably never going to play this again, but if someone, like, hey, do you want to play the Fireman? I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm fucking down to play the Fireman.
This is like in the same class of like wild guns. I mean, not a lot of people have like a wild guns cartridge, but if someone's like, oh shit, we got a SNES, you want to pop in wild guns? I'm like, hell yeah. But like, I'm never gonna like think to do that, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of really good games that are kind of like, they're very ephemeral experiences. Like you'll pop them in just because like you're looking through your library.
I'm like that with that NES game Rampart. I remember we played it at our buddy's house that one time.
Yeah.
I think that game's super fucking fun. But
that's me with Guerrilla War. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love like the enemies in this game. I think that's what really does it for me. It's like you're like blasting through these levels from like a top-down perspective, and as you have these projectiles coming at you, you have like these different enemy types that make for really interesting like experiences. Whether it's like certain fires coming at you, and can we talk about the controls for a second? The controls are so fucking good.
Let's talk about the controls. Let's talk about the enemies. But like, I really think that we have to put this in a frame of reference of a game like the Ignition Factor. One of the reasons why the Ignition Factor was so boring is because like fire was fire. It basically just, it was fire. It randomly spread. If you didn't get it, then that was it. You mentioned these enemies. Each level has its own like kind of like unique fire that's harder than like the previous level's fire. So you start out and it's really just fire coming at you. It could come at you in a straight line. It could come at you in like a zigzag pattern. All of a sudden you have like fire where you have to duck under it. Then you have like fire that's like homing fire and it like shoots. Yep. And you have like these different types of enemies that make their way in fire.
Oh yeah, and then the waves of fire, they get stronger. Like it's the same fire as it was earlier, but maybe they'll be faster. They're gonna take more hits or something like that. And all these enemies compound for later in the game. You have all the previous enemies and new ones all having at the same time. And then there's like environmental effects that are happening on top of that. I know in some levels, like they're like those exploding barrels and shit. Like
and the floor is falling from under you. It's like there's like so many oh shit moments in this game, but like they're not made in a bullshit way. Like you're able
absolutely.
to like, this game is arcadey. Like they definitely don't expect you to beat this game on the first try. In fact, they shouldn't, because the game is too short if you want to get value out of it. But like the surprises that come at you are avoidable, and they make you just like, they make you excited. But yeah, like this game takes an enemy, they think of like a cool enemy, and then they somehow make it fire. It like, and you see that in the boss fights.
So because I become from a World of Warcraft perspective, so I see a lot of things I see in like maybe like WoW bosses and like WoW enemies, like from this, as far as like projectiles coming out, how you have to deal with situations, how you have to think dynamically with stuff coming at you, stuff coming up on the ground and stuff like that. That just made me really appreciate like, holy shit, like I love this a lot. Like we were mentioning the controls earlier, you can kind of hit in almost any direction, you know, top left, top right, left, right, down, up, bottom left, bottom right. And the number one piece of fucking advice you gave me was to hold left trigger and right trigger. Helped so much, because that actually keeps you in your direction, because otherwise you can attack and freely move in any direction at the same time with the D-pad. But if you hold left trigger or right trigger or L or R, whatever the fuck you want to say it as, you kind of stay in that direction, which allows you to hit certain enemies a lot better.
Yeah, and like the weapons themselves are programmed in a way that like are super good. Like one of the issues. So first of all, were you excited to be able to move without accidentally running into fire because you hit the run button or whatever it was in the Ignition Factor where you double tapped?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that fucking sucked.
There were so many things in the Ignition Factor that I think if they just like made like, this game shows if you made minor tweaks of the Ignition Factor, that game could have sucked significantly less.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I mentioned he mentioned like I gave him tips. I generally with Super Nintendo games, if I recommend it, I try to just send the manual, because like people read the manual for SNES games. That's how people used to play them.
What people forget is these manuals are fucking useful. They're gonna give you tips. Because these devs were smart. They know their downfalls of their games, or where people are going to have issues, because those games were so rigorously tested back then. I feel that they're gonna put in little tidbits to say like, hey, this is a common thing. Like, remember to do this, and it'll be not a problem.
Yeah, on the weapons themselves. So like they like set this in 2010. I feel for this reason, but like you're. Unlike the Ignition Factor where you're like fiddling through like each individual like different type of weapon, like you just have basically a stream of water that like doesn't stop, and you're just like, yeah, fuck the fire, and you're just like going like Rambo style on the fire, and it's just like, it feels so satisfying, and just like, this is straight up an action game, and it gives me thrills.
Control you have though. I mean, I'm saying like controls, but like I feel like I was so in control of myself. My problem on a lot of SNES games, I don't feel in control of myself a lot of the times. Like I feel like I can't can't like if I get in a situation where I can't react fast enough to like change the outcome of situations, because I've already got myself into the situation. In this game, I feel like at any point, if I ever got myself in a spot, I could just control myself out of that situation via like these extremely tight and fantastic controls. I take a little bit to get used to, as far as like, I think this game would be so much better served with like an analog stick. But
yeah, I can see that. It's like, you ever play a game and then it's like you're in a situation where like you're getting like followed by like an enemy and you're like, oh god, which button? And then you like hit the wrong button and die. Like this is like, oh shit, a wave of a heat wave is coming at me. I have to duck, and then you duck, and then you hit like the ground. Like you basically know exactly what to do at any given time. It's a matter of reaction time. Like you feel so in control of your own destiny in this game.
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
can we talk about that wave? That wave is like the hardest fucking part of the game. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but like it also feels so satisfying when you do it right, and you're just like, I'm Neo
like,
in the Matrix right
you have
now.
you have the wave come. Basically, it's a line that goes across the entire stage. You have to duck under it. But like while that's happening, you're having other fires that are on like a different plane coming at you. So you have to like duck, get up, shoot, move. Like it's like a dance almost. Like it feels like I compared it to like WoW raiding. Like that's basically what raiding in World of Warcraft is like that dance of having to like duck, hit, move, react like over and over. Like I adore this game, man. It was so fun.
This was really fun. Like this is like, it's just a fun, succinct experience. I really enjoyed this game. I definitely don't see myself coming back to it, but like
No.
I was extremely pleasantly surprised. In fact, I like this game, just like the presentation, the graphics. It's like, it's kind of like an anime style. It has really good music.
Oh yeah, the music is fantastic. You know,
Especially the boss fight.
It does double up a little bit on the music, like it plays over and over, but like each level it like sounds differently, like the bosses sound different and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's not like an extensive soundtrack, but like especially during the boss fights, like I felt like in the zone
banger,
because
right?
of it. Yeah, exactly.
The graphics are really good though. It reminds me of like almost like Game Boy Advanced like quality graphics. Like these sprites are super good. They seem a lot better than like the average Super Nintendo sprite. Is this because is this very late in the cycle? I'm not sure.
It isn't. This game is actually I think it's actually before the ignition factor. I think this is like early 94.
This is 95.
95 or early 95, sorry. But
this looks so much better than the ignition factor.
Yeah, really, like the ignition factor sucks. Just fuck the ignition factor.
Yeah,
that's
all my
the
homies
podcast.
hate ignition faster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, like, what this really makes me want to do is play the sequel, which came out on PS1.
Yes, I actually saw that. It's Pete and Danny or something like that.
My boy Danny!
Dude, Pete and Danny are my homies now. Like, we stand Pete and Danny.
This game, especially with the fact that it was like a single building fire, also made me like feel for the characters a lot more than the ignition factor, where like the ignition factor had an overarching story. I'm not sure if you were able to tell.
This actually has a story, like where I feel like somewhat attached to the characters. It's not like crazy in depth, but like their banter's pretty funny. It's like going back and forth. Do you realize you can press select to skip through the dialogue? Yeah,
I didn't realize that initially, but I realized that eventually, because the dialogue in this game does suck, and that it's like, I am going to, and then like it'll be like a 40-second pause. The second floor, like they kind of are expecting you to skip at a certain point. I also like, there is a story regarding the people you save, but it's entirely optional to save people, which is kind of funny.
So here's the thing. It's optional, but it's so good because you regain like half your health every time you save someone. So it's like almost like a checkpoint where it's like, holy shit, I'm getting low on health. You also have 3 lives in this game, which I mean, at first it feels very rough, but like this is definitely a game that gets super like reasonable once you understand what's coming at you and take it slow. This is definitely a game you can't really fly through unless you're like a master. Like if you could just take it slow and just approach everything like methodically, like this is, like you said, it's such a strategic game. Like
it's strategic, but I feel like it's also built to speedrun. Like eventually, like you pretty much understand where every single trigger for every single like fire is going to come from. In fact, like I couldn't be I CBA to play it, but you know that you're able to unlock an expert mode in this game, right?
Really?
So expert mode, if you die once, you die in the game, you die for real. No, you have one continue, and it's
like,
pretty fucked.
It's like the Saw of video games. You have to have like this collar on that kills you if you die.
No, okay. It's just harder, and you only have one continue. But
dude, I don't know. Why hasn't there been a movie of that yet? It's like a movie where you're like the game of life, and it's like you die.
Didn't they make like a Doom one with The Rock where it was like a real video game?
But you die for real. Like you have to beat it right now.
I don't know. I feel that this game, just first of all, this game is speedrun, and like it gave me a speedrunning itch. Like honestly, I feel like this would be an awesome speedrun, but I'm just not gonna do that.
I like honestly, if you like 3 months from now you were like, yo, you want to get on a Discord call and play the Fireman, I could see myself saying yes to that.
Yeah, no, this game was honestly one of the biggest pleasant surprises. Like, I was coming into this with like Fireman game for the Super Nintendo. We played the Ignition Factor.
Yeah, it was like
mediocre.
it was like a meme, yeah, but like it ended up being like a good experience. So yeah, shout outs to the Fireman. You should play this game.
Shout outs to what is it? Nude Maker Entertainment making video games for the Xbox with weird controllers.
But yeah. Wait, what?
I mean, we're talking about like The Rock making Doom movies where if you die in the game, you die for real. Like, did you see? Like, why are they making so many video game related movies and TV shows right now?
Well, it's like for a long time they were making them, and then they ended up being fucking awful. But I think they're kind of hitting a stride where they're realizing like, hey, maybe we can possibly make something that's somewhat all right.
For those who don't know, they're currently making a Last of Us TV show and a Borderlands movie. Jack Black's in the Borderlands movie, so like that maybe is going to be good. I'm a huge Jack Black fan. They're also making like, it's not like news really that Sonic 2 is coming out. The biggest news is that like there was a press release. It's like presenting the official title of the sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's like, wow, what a creative name. But like maybe it was because of Detective Pikachu and Sonic Adventure the movie, where like those were like barely video game movies. And
yeah, which I think is the better way to take it, because like if you're trying to make it a movie about a video game, it kind of fucking like, unless you like are deeply inside of the game like lore and whatnot, it's kind of fucking terrible. But even if you are deeply into it, it's just really cringy because of how vague they have to make it for a general audience.
Yeah, and that's what concerns me out. Like, they're making a Last of Us video or TV series, and like the issue with a lot of the movies based on video games right now is that like I feel like they try to like follow the source material too much, and like it just like it's like this weird uncanny valley where like the source material and the plot from the source material is like suited to a video game like presentation, and therefore it doesn't really translate to the big screen as much, or in this case the silver screen, whatever you want to call TV.
If people enjoy it, sure. I mean, people are gonna complain about The Last of Us regardless because of all the Gamergate bros that fucking are like, women in video games.
Well, women in TV about video games. That's wow. We could go on a rant. Women, am I right?
Women are cool.
There we go. We got the Virtual Homework Podcast.
All my homies stand women.
There we double go. But on that topic,
double butt.
Yeah, I feel like The Last of Us, and while I haven't played it, I've played games like it. The great thing about video games is that like you're able to like put yourself in the protagonist's shoes, and like you get this really satisfying narration where like you have to make the decisions, and therefore it like feels like much more enjoyable on like a personal level. And I feel like a lot of the fans of The Last of Us who have played the video game, they probably are going to be disappointed by this series because like they aren't able to have that interactive element.
I felt the same way about like the Walking Dead series, because like I feel like that show is fucking awful. But have you ever played or seen like the Telltale Games Walking Dead games?
The only Telltale game I've played multiple of the Homestar Runner Telltale games. I think those were like the first ones they made. Those were good. They were legitimately good.
I played the Walking Dead games. Holy shit, that left me emotionally drained, because you are so attached to these characters. Like, it is such a fantastic experience. I almost want to say we should play that in the podcast. I think you'd really enjoy it. But compared to show,
you could pick like, half the games, man.
Well, it's like I don't want to play shit I've already played, but like, holy shit, that game is like fucking emotionally like oh my god, I was like in tears by the end of it. It was so good. But it's something
I hear The Last of Us 2 is also extremely emotionally draining. Like, you have to like torture some people.
Well, it's you would only be able to experience that if you were playing it yourself, because like you said, you're putting yourself in that world, you become engrossed in it, versus like a show. I feel like some extent you can have that happen to you.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, there's been some shows and movies where it's like a visceral, like deeply emotional experience, but it's nothing like a video game.
You're like, because you're playing through it, you know, like you're the one experiencing
you have to make the decisions yourself. It's like, oh shit, like if I don't do this, like I have to restart the game, like fuck. And no one wants to lose progress. Therefore, everything's more emotionally invested. I mean, like, I personally, like, I at least, like, kind of know about The Last of Us. I barely know anything about Borderlands. I just like Jack Black, so I'm excited about that. I also will never see Sonic the Hedgehog 1 or probably 2, so there we go.
I will never see either of those, to be honest. Borderlands is actually one of my favorite game series ever. I played Borderlands 1. I beat the shit out of Borderlands 2. I probably played like 500 hours of that game. I never played Borderlands 3 because it was on the Epic Game Store and I refused to buy it from there. Apparently it's on Steam now and it's doing well and people are having fun with it. I just haven't grabbed it yet. We should actually grab that. I think that would be a cool game for us to play. Fuck, man. There's so much cool shit coming out. I think we're going to have so much fun with. Like,
pick games you want to play, man. That's all I can say. But in the meantime, there's something I have to bring up because this has been on like a separate tab and I completely forgot about it. And I'm bringing it back. We're back on Firemen Discussion, okay? This is the first time in the podcast we've transitioned back. No, it's really not. Okay, first of all,
back.
I want to say Human Corporation was the actual name, and they later changed their name to Human Entertainment, okay? So we're both right.
Or we're both wrong.
I guess.
Well, no, actually, we were just both right. They were actually not both wrong.
Yeah, there we go. We'll say that. Human Corporation.
I'm proud of you.
I'm proud of myself. I'm going to pat myself on the back for this
you.
one. I will say that they made stadium events.
Did they really?
Yeah, they did. They made a bunch of... I'm telling you, they made a lot of games that were cool.
One thing that I think is interesting about this podcast is, like, yeah, we play these games, but we do like to briefly look into the companies that make these games. And it's kind of interesting to see, like, what other stuff, like, these random fucking companies have made.
Like that one that made Trapped.
Yeah.
Like, I just laugh at that name because it's fucking Trapped. God damn. I mean, like,
you had fun with Trapped. That was so
Trapped was
funny.
dope. Trapped was dope for the wrong reasons. I don't know. I would, if I bought Trapped when I was a child, I would be so pissed about it. Like the thing, like I almost don't like picking games for like anything that's like not on Steam or the Switch because I can't like cyberstalk you, helicopter parent. I'm like, did Dana play the game this week? I don't know if he actually played it.
I'll always play the game because this is a big. Movie.
I know, but sometimes I'm like, oh, I hope he like really took his time and played it. Like he played it on like Friday night instead of like Saturday 1 hour before the podcast.
I've only done that for. I'm trying to think what game I did that for.
Some shitty game like Space Giraffe or something like that.
Yeah,
not Space Giraffe. Giraffe Town.
I actually played a lot of Giraffe Town.
Every single fucking time I want to say Giraffe Town, I say Space Giraffe. I don't understand. It's actually a problem.
No, I take that back. I played like 30 minutes of Space Giraffe because it physically made me too nauseous to play.
All right, that's fair. But no, I actually had a reason for bringing this back, and that is I want to do a little bit of a rant here because like there are so many games that are good that are unknown. So one of the things that happened was that like this week Nintendo announced more titles for the SNES Online service.
Yeah, I saw that. What did they release?
So the thing is, like, do you remember, like, we were gonna play the Ignition Factor just like on emulator, and then like it's like, oh shit, like Nintendo really is releasing. They're releasing this random ass title, like the Ignition Factor for the Switch Online service. Like, and that's one of the reasons I like the Switch Online service so much. Like, there's so many games that like really you get for quote unquote free if you pay for online.
But like, who's ever heard of any of these games? And I just hope that like even if they get like a sliver of people into them, to be like, holy shit, these are really like unique titles like that are super super fun.
Yeah. So for example, the games that came out this week were Doomsday Warrior, Psycho Dream, and Prehistoric Man for the Super Nintendo. But
I've never heard of any of these.
Yeah, the big one, so I've never heard of those either, honestly, and I'm a Super Nintendo fan. I feel like I've heard of Prehistoric Man, but I don't know enough about it. Fire and Ice came out this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's actually like the dopest shit ever because that was our first game we ever played, and it was it's still one of my favorite NES games.
Don't listen to that episode. That's like a really shitty episode of the podcast, but we've gotten a little bit better. I mean,
episode 100. We're gonna go back to it.
Yeah, we're gonna play Fire and Ice again. We're gonna play Solomon's Key 3. Isn't that RD2, right? Solomon's Key.
I don't know. We should.
I think
play
Fire and Ice.
In the series.
Fire and Ice is Solomon's Key 2. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll play Solomon's Key 3. Hopefully, it's in
what
English.
episode number is this? Is 44 or 43?
40 something.
So the one where 140 something, we're gonna have to play Pete and Danny too.
You're not gonna pick it for next week? Come on. But
man.
I'm going somewhere with this. Eventually, we're gonna get to a point. So many people were pissed about them announcing that these games that they've never heard of were coming to the Nintendo Switch Online because apparently I didn't realize this was a thing, but every single time Earthbound and Super Mario RPG aren't released for the Switch Online service, like Nintendo gets like a bunch of spam saying release these two games for Nintendo Switch Online. But like
really?
Apparently like because these were such obscure titles, like people really got upset. Like this was trending on Twitter, like put Earthbound on Super Nintendo Online already. I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, give these games a chance. First of all, we could talk about Earthbound even longer than what is literally the longest we've ever talked about a video game on the podcast. This came up in a previous conversation. Apparently, we talked about Earthbound more than every other game.
I didn't even realize it. I think we were just so like passionate about that game and like how disappointed we ultimately were.
Yeah, and I still got to beat Mother 3 because that game is actually very good. Yeah, like we could talk about Earthbound being overrated. I've never played Super Mario RPG. I've heard extremely good things, and hopefully it's not overrated. Just, dude, I love Paper Mario, so I bet it would be good. They are good games, but like there are ways to play those, especially like, okay, I shouldn't say like just get a SNES Mini because I feel like those are super expensive.
But it's like at this point, like it's been on like 70 other platforms. Like you could play it. Like
yes, you could play it, but I also feel like people need to give these games a chance. Like it's like this is. I don't want to be a Nintendo apologist. Nintendo does a lot of shitty things, but like they are literally just like giving out games for free at this point.
Oh, and they're letting people experience new things. Like why do my whole thing is like people want to experience things they've already experienced before like 50 other times. Like give something new a chance. Like, you know, you don't have to eat macaroni and cheese every day of your life. Maybe adventure onto some like beef and broccoli or some shit, you know?
Like that's like genuinely a question I have. Like they released the Ignition Factor for SNES Online. Like how many people do you think played the Ignition Factor?
Us.
2. There we go.
And then our super fans who listen to the podcast.
Our super fans. I feel like actually first of all,
shout outs to Romania.
Yeah, shout outs to Bucharest. But no, like I'm not gonna dog on myself too much here, but the Ignition Factor was not one of our best episodes. I feel like people are not super into the Ignition Factor. I don't know what to say.
Wow.
I'm sorry. But I genuinely wonder, do you think it's in the thousands, in the 10,000s?
As far as total amount of people who have ever played it, I think it's probably significantly more than that. I would say probably
No, I'm saying since coming out on the Switch. Nintendo Switch Online.
So play it actually or open it, play it for 2 seconds, then close it.
So open, play it for 2 seconds, and close it. I'm going to say 50,000. Play it for more than 10 minutes, 10,000. That's what I'm going to say.
I would be willing to bet it's more than that because Japanese people exist and they play games.
Okay. I mean, I guess there is a Japanese market that I didn't really expect. Apparently, the Ignition Factor has some, like, weird translations, which I kind of make sense considering those jokes in that game made absolutely zero sense.
Oh, can we talk about the horrible English opening with fucking the firemen?
Oh, yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. So,
like I was mentioning it with, like, Pete and Danny, who have 2 commendations for their immense bravery. Like, it's just like, why? It's all, like, a relevant dribble, but...
The game was only in English due to the fact that it got a UK release, so like that's a significantly smaller than American audience. Like I am genuinely sad this game didn't get a US release. It could have been something great, but it is what it is. I genuinely enjoy Nintendo releasing these weird ass games to the public. I feel like you're gonna get fans of the game that never really even expected it, and like you get fans in weird places. I know people, and I don't just like know random 12-year-olds. I know people who like were in my stream who were like young, and it's like, oh shit, I played this random game on my Switch and like I like it a lot, and like that's honestly
that's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. It's just like these people.
I feel like people have the potential to have such a better time with something they've never played before, but it's like all people want is to play the same thing that they've played a million times before. It's like, yeah, you can play the Donkey Kong Country 2. Yeah, you can play Super Mario World. Yeah, you can play Link to the Past and stuff like that, but you've all played that game 1,000 times. Give one of these new games a chance. Like, you might fucking enjoy it like we enjoyed the Firemen.
Yeah, like, I genuinely, I see myself, like, right now being 10 years old with the Nintendo Switch because, like, how much time do you, like, you spent your entire life just gaming as a kid, right?
Absolutely. I had the Super Nintendo every single day.
And I feel like I would have online services now if I was like 10 because my parents were allowing me to game. And like I feel like at a certain point I would get bored of the games I have and go into whatever was free offered on the Nintendo Switch Online. And I'd be like, what the fuck is prehistoric, man? I like cavemen, dinosaur shit. And it's
you're not going to tell me you haven't done that thing where you go on Steam and look at like the newest free MMO and just download it to see what it is with your buddies or something like that.
Yeah, but like now it's kind of ruined because like with Greenlight, it's like here's Anime Titty Experience 8.
Yeah,
and I'm
it's
like,
I'd
rather not.
Yeah, these aren't as curated as they once were.
Like there's like a weeb version of Death Stranding that's like $1 now. I'm like, really? Whatever. Who cares?
Stranding.
I mean, if we're talking about like games getting released on platforms, did you? I know the answer for this. Did you hear about Google Stadia? There's multiple aspects of this. So we actually didn't talk about this last week, and you had like
I thought we did talk about this last week.
So no, we actually didn't. We didn't talk about Stadia at all. You like tried to transition into it, and like I misinterpreted your transition and went on like a different rant about China. But yeah. So Google Stadia was super in the news, and in fact, I was kind of a victim of misinformation. I thought Google Stadia was like shutting down most of its services and going on life support.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the case in that like Google Stadia is not I feel like everyone kind of knows Google Stadia is shitty, and like even Google is not really announcing anything cool for the platform.
There's just not the infrastructure for it as well. I mean, the people knew that from the very beginning, that people would have lag and other issues. You even said, I remember a long time ago when you tried it, is like, wow, I'm lagging like a motherfucker, and I have like terabyte up internet and shit.
Yeah, but Google Stadia, they shut down their internal game development studio, so they were going to make Stadia exclusive video games. That's no longer the case. Luckily, the 150 devs on the project are just being relocated to Google. No one's losing their jobs. Because like at the end of the day, like a studio shutting down is like seriously bad for a lot of developers.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah, the big
I don't
thing
think they could have ever had games themselves, to be honest. I just don't think they have enough of a market share to like have any interest with it.
Well, Google is Google. They have money to blow. They were really trying their absolute best. I mean, like I don't know if like a game as popular or like well received as Fortnite was like only on Stadia, I bet, because like Stadia is relatively cheap. Like really, like kids drive a lot of the market. They could have done something, but I don't think it was like, I think it was doomed to fail.
Well, it just like I said, there's just not enough infrastructure in the world to support what they are going. Give it like, let's say 20 years from now they try something like this, it could be like the biggest fucking thing ever, because everyone's
when we have like Musk satellite internet.
Yeah,
maybe.
Exactly. When we have not fucking third world internet in first world countries.
Yeah, but the big thing, if we're going to get on the Stadia discussion, and I know we talked about this right before the podcast because Dana doesn't read my articles. Dana is not the best co-host. I'm accepting co-host applications, actually, if anyone wants to apply. But yeah, actually, that's all I wanted to say. Co-host applications.
Fuck you.
No, okay.
I make my own podcast. It's called the Sam Sucks podcast.
I want to hear it. 3-hour episodes once every 3 days. And this is reason 475 that Sam sucks. No, so this is like actually one of the most entertaining stories I've read in like recent memory. So
yeah.
I personally, have you ever heard of someone getting locked out of their Google account? It's actually a scary process.
Getting locked out of anything in today's age is fucking terrifying. But like Google, it's like you have like your entire livelihood. It's like you could have bank accounts, you could have your email, like your work, like you literally can't like live your fucking life.
Yeah, so like there are something that's like a total Google account lockout, and think of what that means. So like first of all, your Gmail getting locked out is absolutely fucked. For a lot of people, Gmail is like the only way they actually communicate with people in like the last 10 years, like a fish in a business aspect. But that also means your YouTube, really anything connected to like 90% of the internet is absolutely destroyed. And this happens from time to time due to like some random like bot mishap. And the thing about Google, if you've ever tried to get in contact with Google, you can't. It's literally impossible.
No. And it's a lot of modern companies, like they don't actually have customer service like direct. It's like just tickets or like automated or like video chat.
Or it's like spamming social media until finally enough outrage is generated to...
Yeah, which is unreal.
Yeah. So this happens all the time, and it's really fucked up, and honestly, that something should be done about it. Like, I feel like Google should be mandated by the government to have like a corporate hotline of some sort. But even then, this generally doesn't happen to people in positions of power. And when it does, it's relatively quickly resolved. Like you see people accidentally getting flagged on YouTube, and then like eventually they'll get non-suspended. But what happened was Terraria, which is actually one of my favorite games of all time. I love Terraria. Fantastic game. I played so many hours of this like maybe 10 years ago, and I'm not a huge fan now, but that's besides the point. Terraria's main dev experienced what we're talking about, a Google account lockdown.
Oh, no.
So they were not able to access their Gmail, etc. What happened was he also owned the Terraria YouTube account. So what happened before all this happened is they got an email that basically said your content, and they should like linked a video or something like that, or a series of videos, has content that infringes on the Google terms of service. You must remediate this immediately or else face whatever, and like the content was completely benign, and then they got an email later saying, sorry, the previous message was sent in error, and then like after that one that says it was sent in error, they got their entire account suspended. And this was associated with the main Terraria devs account. So basically what happened to him is he got all his Google stuff suspended, and he tried to contact Google for a month to get his life back. And what happened was
so
it didn't happen.
So if they had like updates for the game or anything, they couldn't post any videos on like the official channel or like anything.
True, but the official channel had not made a video in 6 months before this happened. So this happened a month ago, and there wasn't even anything on the channel in the last 6 months. So it's crazy. It's like some weird automated system going haywire. So instead of Google being like a company that treats like a developer that has like a massively popular game on Google Play Store like well, what happened was they just completely stonewalled him, treated him like another person. And so instead of him taking this lying down, he literally canceled the Stadia port of Terraria. And like, first of all, that's the most baller move of all time. It's like, you know, he literally
like,
said something along
Google,
the lines,
fuck you, you're not gonna release our game and make money off of it. Fuck you.
Yeah, which is honestly amazing. I can't believe like,
that literally is the most
that.
baller move of all time.
Yeah, and like honestly, he's in every single right to do that. Like he got completely tossed around by like one of the biggest publishers, and like the thing is, Stadia needs him more than he needs them. Like Terraria is known for the fact that you're able to play it wherever. It's still going to be on Google Store because he said it's unfair to the people who bought the game on Google Store, if like or Google Play, whatever the Android market is, just due to the fact that like
that's
people
so
bought the game,
insane to
and
me,
it's going to be unfair.
This isn't like an indie game. Like this game has like hundreds of millions of plays. Like this is
one of the most popular games
game
of all time. Yeah, so at Google, my account has been disabled for over 3 weeks. I still have no idea why, and after using every resource I have to get this resolved, you have done nothing but give me the runaround. My phone has lost access to thousands of dollars of apps on Google Play. I have just bought Lord of the Rings 4K and can't finish it. Speaking of which, Lord of the Rings 4K just came out in IMAX, which is the absolute worst timing ever. Holy shit. That's a topic for another day. I've just bought Lord of the Rings 4K and can't finish it. My Google Drive data is completely gone. I can't access my YouTube channel. Worst of all, I lost access to my Gmail address of over 15 years. I have absolutely have not done anything to violate your terms of service, so I can take this no other way than you deciding to burn this bridge. Consider it burned. Terraria for Google Stadia is canceled. My company will no longer support any of your platforms moving forward. So he's like basically any Google support is gone. This is a huge, massive burning bridge for a company trying to get
absolutely.
into gaming. Holy shit. This couldn't have gone worse. And Google has not been able to be reached for comment regarding it. It's been over a week since this
They haven't
happened.
responded at all whatsoever?
Okay, maybe not over a week. It's been 6 days, and they have not responded at all. There is no Google follow-up regarding this.
Holy shit.
In fact, he's like continued to tweet about it. Like he like a couple days later, it's like days since I've had this icon. It's like a you cannot access icon. A day since I've had this icon on my phone. 25. Google, click the button that unbans my account. Maybe honestly, Google, maybe they're vengeful internally and they don't want to deal with him now that he's like actually made their life harder. But like at the same time, like he's completely in the right here. I would be so pissed if this happens to me. And like the issue is not necessarily that it was just his accounts that got locked. Like all of Terraria's development has gotten.
I imagine like all their company shit is like directly attached for it. Like probably Google Drive stuff. Like
it's fucked. It actually is fucked. I can't believe that, like, this is such a bad situation that could have easily been avoided. Like,
especially in an industry that's based on, like, goodwill. Like, goodwill goes so far in the gaming community for, like, something like Stadia who's trying to build up. Like, this is, like, another nail in the content, fucking in the coffin for Google Stadia, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Like, no one's going to want to be on a platform that doesn't even have, like, the games
hilarious.
you recognize
I
on
feel
every
so
platform.
bad for the guy, but holy shit is this hilarious.
Like, I understand there are people that are more famous than me. Like, there should be channels where he could have gotten this resolved. I'm just surprised that Google did not give a shit about, like, literally the lead developer on, like, one of the most popular games of all time. Shit's cray. Almost as cray as
I'm surprised he's not verified on Twitter or anything like that.
He has 70,000 followers. That's good enough.
Well, I didn't know who this was at all until you had mentioned.
That's why I
it was
didn't
the Twitter
read it.
guy.
He saw I just linked a random tweet. He's like,
Well,
this guy's not checkmarked on Twitter.
I read the first tweet of him saying he's locked out of his Google account. I'm like, oh, who is this guy? And then it says like professional button master. He doesn't say like, oh, I'm like the leave dead, blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's fair enough. I mean, like, if we're talking about verified users, if we're talking about crazy situations, you sent me a link that I refuse to click on.
Dude, this is probably the most earth-shattering news we've ever broken on this channel. Are you guys ready for it?
Yes. I'm ready for it.
Soulja Boy has an OnlyFans.
What's on it? I refuse to look.
It's Soulja Boy's penis.
Is Soulja Boy's penis actually on it?
It's Soulja fans.
Do we know anything about this, or are you just like speculating? Did you buy it? How much is it monthly?
You can get in for as low as $25 per month.
Is Soulja Boy's dick on it?
I don't know, but you can see his nipples.
That's like I could go to a pool and see a man's nipples.
Like his recent post says, "Good morning, baby. What you getting me for Valentine's Day? Tip me right now for private convo and a special photo from me."
I remember like back in the day, Soulja Boy had a website, and it's like $5 for a Twitter shout out. So I got a Twitter shout out from Soulja Boy.
Dude, now that you can just get like any celebrity, just say like any random shit.
Yeah, this was pre Cameo, but like now I could use the same amount of money to see Soulja Boy's penis. Technology, gaming, virtual homework.
Hey, buddy.
Yo, is that a fucking good episode or what?
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you did like it.
All right, here's what you're going to do. 5 stars Apple Podcast. Subscribe on SoundCloud. Go to Spotify, get all your friends, and make them subscribe. Gunpoint. Basically, whatever you can do to make this podcast successful, we don't care what it is. We don't care what the means are. Thanks, gamers.
What he said, but slightly less aggressive and more loving.